All right, good morning, everyone. This is the Des Moines user group, Let's Get Flowing training. And my name is Terry. If you haven't met me, I know we've got people joining from all over the world this morning. So welcome to those of you who are not standard Des Moines user group people. We're glad to host you today, and hopefully that you'll find something helpful in this training today. So let's go ahead and get started with it. All right. Just a reminder, we do ask that you stay muted. I don't know that I care too much about that. I mostly, if you have a question, go ahead and feel free to interrupt and unmute yourself. Otherwise, just stay muted, just so we avoid any of the unusual background noises and dogs and cats and children or whatever. And reminder, we do record these sessions. These are posted out on my YouTube channel. And so that is something that if you do need to drop early, or if you want to see previous sessions, you can go out and find those as well. Just to kind of give you an idea of where we've been and where we're headed today, we have done 3 sessions. This is the 4th one. Here we're focusing on flow templates and login flows. We will have another session on September 15th and one on the 13th as well. And so our use case today is we want users to update their user profile. So you might be familiar with when you set up a user, often you don't have all of the detail around who they are. And so we want users to make sure that we're populating their profile with their address and their title, that sort of thing. So we're gonna use a login flow to do that. I'm gonna show you how to find templates, and then we'll do a little debugging and show you how that template works, and then we'll set it up as a login flow, and then we'll kind of just demo our way through it. So as you have questions, feel free to unmute and ask. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and get started. So you may not be familiar with the idea of flow templates, and one of the things that you will find out on AppExchange is this flow template. And it looks like my screen is sharing both screens. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Yeah.
All right. Let me see if I can't fix that. Let's just a second. All right, we'll just go with this way. And I think that's going to get you the full screen, but that'll work. Okay, so on AppExchange, there is this section called Solutions by Type. I believe that's where it is. Yes, and then you'll see this menu option called Flow Solutions with a nice little new button next to it, because this is a new area. And so simply by selecting that, it will take us to our Flow Solutions, assuming my computer catches up with me. There we go. And we're going to see here some pre-built templates that we can install into our Salesforce org, and you can come out and kind of get a good flavor. There's a lot of them out here, and we're going to use one of them that's right up here at the top of the page called the Profile Wizard. And you install this just like you would any other app. So you go and click More. And we're going to wait for my computer to spin for a little bit. Hopefully it takes us to the page. And just like you do an application, you just click on the Get It Now, and that walks you through the installation of adding it to your Salesforce org. I am not going to do that because I do already have it installed. But what I want to do is I'm going to log out of my org, and I want to show you how this looks. I've already got it set up, and we're going to go through that setup in a moment, but I want you to see how does this work. And so this is what the solution is going to look like once we finish building it. It comes up, and this is our login flow that welcomes us. This is actually the flow template that you're seeing here. It says that my profile is currently 30% complete. I click next, and it says, oh, you're missing your title and department. So let me put that in. I'm going to make myself a CEO today of department IT division. We'll say US. Click next. Says that we're at 60% complete now. I'm missing an address, so let's just put in part of that address. I'm just going to say, whoops, I spelled my name wrong. Clyde, Iowa. Click next. And then it has my phone information. I'm going to clear that one out just for fun. And so then I get to a final screen that looks like this. So that's what we are looking to build out. Once we get through the flow, then it takes us and logs us into Salesforce. So when we look at that flow template that was out here on AppExchange, that's what this template does. So let's take a look at how it works. So in setup, we're going to go to flows. And we are going to look at how we would create this if we were going to create it new. I've got a couple of them here that's already working. We're going to start over with a new one and click new. And what you will see is your normal flow types up at the top. So you've got your screen flow and your auto flows. But below that, you'll see this section called templates. And the template, in this particular org, we got quite a few templates in here. So I'm looking for that profile update wizard, and you'll see that has been loaded right down here. It's a screen flow, you can tell from that icon. So I'm going to just select that flow, click create, and it takes us into our canvas to where we can see what this flow is actually made up of. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit there. And you see it's a fairly simple flow. There's not a whole lot to it. The lines are kind of crazy, as they always are with flow. But it starts off here, and it is simply going to grab our user record. So that's just our normal get. It's getting information from the user object where the ID equals this user ID. I'll show you that in just a second. And so it's grabbing the information, throwing it into variables that it'll use later. So simple get. From there, it's a little bit hard to tell, but it actually goes over to this assignment as the next piece of this flow. And the assignment is simply adding the step one, to this step variable. So the step variable is going to equal 1 when we first come through. So step variable equals 1 when we come through the first time. We hit our decision, and the decision is just looking at the value of that step variable, and based on its value, it's determining which outcome or which path to take. So what that means is, let's assume we're coming in here for the first time. It's coming in with my user ID, getting the record. It's assigning that step to the value of 1. And then I hit this decision, and that decision says what value am I currently on, and it's going to be our default outcome, because it's not that the step does not equal 2, it does not equal 3, 4, or 5, it still equals 1. So it's going to follow that default outcome, which is this one right here. This is step 1. Step 1 takes us into that first screen that looks like this. And what's nice here is, because we're using this template, all of these Lightning components that were custom created for us, we didn't have to build any of it. So that design that we saw is all pre-configured, pre-built, and it makes it super, super easy for you as an admin. all you need to do, this is that progress bar that was at the top. Here's some welcome text. And then this was the percentage of completion. So that is our first flow screen. Once we hit that screen, we come back up here to get records. And then it's going to come back over to that assignment. When it hits that assignment, 1 plus 1 is now going to equal 2. It hits this decision, and it's going to go down here through step 2. Step 2 is this screen. And this is actually where we are starting to gather data now. You can still see the progress bar, that lightning component is there, as well as the percentage completion at the bottom of the screen is also there for us. So we're asking for a title, department, division. And again, it just loops, it updates the record now, refetches it, comes back through, 2 equals 3, hits the decision, and then goes down to screen 3. Same thing, it updates, goes to 4, and then finally to 5. Now, so that's the content of what the actual flow is doing. I know I went through that fairly quick, and I'm assuming if you've been a part of our previous videos, you kind of already understand how to navigate and understand what the various components on the screen are doing. So I wasn't planning on going through that in great detail, but if you have a question on any of what you see on the screen, go ahead and unmute and feel free to ask.
Hi,
And
Terry.
yes. Hey,
Hi,
Pearl.
this is Pearl. So it's not a question about the flow, it's about the display on the
Yeah.
screen. So
Okay.
I don't know whether you can move the main screen showing the flow more to the
Oh,
left.
it's,
So it's
yeah,
not
my
overlapping
picture
with your
is
image.
hiding, isn't it?
Awesome,
There
awesome.
you,
Thank you
there you
so
go. Very
much.
good. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
I forget that my picture's up there and it hides it. So thank you for that. Any other questions or comments on how this portion of the
What if
flow
the
goes?
user, yeah, what if the
Yeah,
user
good
already
question.
updated all the fields?
Yes, and that's something that we're going to actually fix, because this particular flow, the template, is going to always ask them, even if they've completed everything, which is very annoying. So that's a great segue to the update that we're going to make on this flow. So we're going to come back to that in just a second. I do want to show you one thing, which is the user ID field. This user ID is not that one. I want the user ID variable. Let me just search for it. Here it is, user ID. This is our variable that we have selected as an input variable. So what that input checkbox means is that we're able to pass a user ID into this particular flow. And that's how the flow knows from the login process that it's me and not someone else. So that's an important variable and concept there to understand. That input and output just means that you're able to receive a value outside of the flow and then leverage it in the flow. Same way with the output, I'm able to create a value within the flow and then send it to whatever output I would need to share the variable with, or the result of the flow. I think that is the only resource there that I wanted to point out. So let's log back out, and I'm going to show you that it's still going to prompt me again, even though I do have part of my flow completed. So let's log back out. And let's come back in. All right, here's that lightning component that we were seeing on the screen. Here's our progress bar. We're at 70% of the way complete. And again, I'm just going to navigate through. There's the values I put in right off the top. It's missing the street. So I could put in a street address. I'm going to leave the zip code. We'll put that mobile number back in. I get my confirmation screen here just to be able to review. You can see I'm now at 90% complete, and I'll click finish. And sure enough, it logs me back in. Now, if I have to hit this screen every single time, that's going to get really, really frustrating for your users. And so we want to modify this to say, let's say that we're at, if they're 70% complete on their profile, we're gonna say we're happy with that. So let's go back into that flow. And I brilliantly did not save it. So we're gonna create a new one. Sorry about that. Create. And let's zoom out here a little bit. Now, where do you think it makes sense for us to add logic into the flow to tell it to bypass these screens if we're at 70% complete? Anyone want to take a stab at that?
At the beginning?
Okay. Do we want to do, we have to get our record first in order to know how far they've gotten. So we could put the decision element right here. I'm going to choose, since there's really not a whole lot happening here, I'm going to just go ahead and leverage the decision here. The one that's there. That keeps me from having to create another component on my screen. I can just, or another element on my screen, I can just leverage the one that's there. And I need to then create or add a new outcome. And it throws it down here at the bottom, but let's say, actually, we'll call it percent greater, let's do it this way, greater than 70. And it's already got its name. So our condition, our outcome, in order for that to be true, needs to come from that get statement that we had. And if I look here, this is my, I believe this is the right record. Yeah. And I am trying to, oh yes, sorry. That is correct. They have added to the user record, and I should show you this. There is a formula field that they have created, and I'm just looking for that. It is called, I believe, percent complete. So these are just my user fields. Number field, logins, profile. I might have to jump out and look for what they called it. Let me just see if I can find it by typing in here. Percent. There it is. Percent complete. If we go and look in on the user object, you will see that they created this formula field, and that came in with the flow template. So right here's that custom field. It's just simply a formula where they are calculating how much of the profile has been completed. Okay, so we're going to leverage that inside the formula, and we're just going to say it is greater than or equal, and we'll say 70%. And we'll then move this to the top because we don't want to go through step 2, 3, or 4 if this is true. So when you're on a decision element, it's going to process in the order in which you see the outcomes on the page. So that's why I want to move that %70 up to the very top. Okay. And then we're going to say that that's done. Now, I'm going to go ahead and save this. And like a good admin, we are going to debug this before we actually start to use it. So let's run through a debug. And I'm going to see if my user ID is still here. Okay, that's my user ID. I'm going to run that. You can see that the flow comes up. It says it's 90% of the way complete. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, wait a minute. I just put that decision in there that said that if it's 70%, I don't want, or greater than 70%, I don't want to go through this. So something didn't happen the way that I expected it to here. So what you see in your debug log is the detail of every step that your flow is going through. So it starts off up here with the interview is started. You can see that the ID that I sent in is right here. It sets that to the user ID field. Here's that get lookup. So we're getting our record, and the results are right here. And you can see the percent complete's 90. So something's still goofy. We increment our step, that gets us to that very first screen. And now here's the decision. That decision for the percent, it looks at the value, and the percent complete is null. And step 2 would be listed here too, and then 3, 4, 5. And you'll see down here at the bottom, it says that the default outcome was executed. Now, what's interesting in this is that and percents do this to me frequently. A lot of times I never remember if with a percent I'm supposed to use a decimal, 0.0 for 70%, or if it's actually the actual number 70. And so as I come back through, you'll see that it's just now filling out our debug log with our next steps. But that decision that I wanted to fire up here, it took the default path, so I'm still going through here. So let's cancel this. And let's come back into that decision. Let's take that decimal point out, and let's just go with 70, and let's see if that makes it any better. So we're going to save. And then we'll go back and debug this again. Let's see what that does. Okay, something's still not quite right. You can see here's that decision, greater than or equal to 70. But the outcome, that user record percent outcome is null. So something's still not up working quite like we want it to do there. So
is it bringing back the null value from the user object?
I think it is. So let's.
Oh yeah, in your get records, are you bringing that back?
Yeah. So let's take a look. So in our get record call, you're absolutely right, and I'm doing this on purpose so that no, it's good, because the process of debugging flows is something that you have to know, and so we're using that debug section on our flow in order to help us identify what's going on. And Carla hit it right in that something's not quite right with our field in this percent complete. And so let's do this. Let's just see, does it have a value in that particular field? So let's go to my user record. There's that formula. Let's find my user record. Let's see if, okay, so it didn't modify the form, so let's go in and do that real quick. Page layout. There's that % field. So we're going to drag that onto our form. Let's see what it actually is storing in that field. So back to my user record. Where was that? Did I go away from it? All right. Oh, it's not me. It's that flow user. All right, let's do it the easy way. User, here it is. And let's see what that value is. Okay, so I am getting a value here. It is set to 90%, so that's interesting. Let's come back in and let's look at that debug log once again, just to verify our user record. There's our ID. There's our field. And what it's set to is this % complete variable. So we're setting that 90% to that % complete field. Let's take a look at this and let's look at what is different here. Now you'll notice the resource here is just pulling in the user. It's pulling in a different variable or a different field than what we actually want here. So let's see if we can find that % complete instead. So here's now my % complete field. So let's try it with this field. And the reason for that is the field that we are setting in that get statement. We're setting the actual value coming from the user % field to that % complete variable. So let's give it a try now. We're going to save it. And let's try the debug again. Let's get my user ID in there. Now you'll notice that it went all the way through. It's done. We didn't actually see any screens. And it's like, oh, did it work or did it break? So let's look back through that debug log. There is our user ID that we passed in. Here's our get record. Here's that variable. That's the piece that we missed in our decision. We're setting that 90% to this variable. As we increment down here, here's our decision, the outcome greater than 90%. That's the one that we hit. You'll notice that % complete does now equal 90. It's no longer null. And it is greater than the actual whole number of 90, or I'm sorry, of 70. So it ran through, processed just like we expected it to, because we did not get prompted for any additional information. Any questions or any that you have on how we read through that debug log, how we were able to kind of identify different elements in that log that helps us make sure that our flow is accurate? Good, good. Thanks, Jade. Good. Jade says that's awesome. Yeah, the debug log is absolutely your friend. It's really easy to become overwhelmed with it, but you'll notice here, like this get record lookup, right here's the ID that we passed in. So it's always going to show you what your variable name is, as well as its value. And so looking through this, you're always able to get to understand, are you working with the correct variable? Is it formatted in the way that you're expecting it to be formatted? So the debug log, it can get kind of lengthy, but it also is important for you to know how to read through it and decipher it. So hopefully that makes sense. So I want to.
I have a question. Is it? I can't remember if this is true or not. That's why I'm asking. You're going through the debug with an example. Is it actually committing back to the database? What you're doing in the flow? It does, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so
Yes, it
that's
does.
something to keep in
Now,
mind.
yes, also in the summer release, you have the option of having it roll it back.
Okay.
So keep that in mind. That's a new feature that's coming. You will know that you're in the summer edition when this enlarge and, which you can't see it again. Let me slide this up to where you can see it. When your enlarge and minimize buttons, they're going to shift over to this side of the screen. For most of us, that's going to happen probably next week, next weekend. So you'll see a little bit difference, some differences in how your canvas sets up. All right, so let's activate. I don't want to activate this one because I already have one activated. Let me show you now how we turn this flow into something that gets prompted on login. Because right now there's nothing unique to this flow that tells it to run on login. So let's do that piece of it now. So we're going to come into our setup and simply type in flow. And you'll notice down here at the very bottom, there is this login flow option. So we're going to simply click on this. And this is really the easiest part of this whole piece. You're going to then click new. And it's going to ask you, what do you want to run on login? So we're going to choose a flow. We'll give it our profile name. We'll just call it that. And then it's going to show you all of your active flows. Now, my active flow for the login is this one. This is the one that I have pre-built. Now, one thing that I'm not hugely fond of with the way the login flow works is you do have to choose your license, and then you have to choose a profile. I'd like to just have it run for everybody, and I could not, and maybe if some of you have done this before, maybe you can educate me on this, but I don't believe I can leave that as none. I believe I've got to choose a profile, which means that if I want to run this, if I want everybody to run it, I've got to create one of these new login flows for each of those profiles. And I find that just a little bit redundant. Okay, and then you simply save it, and you've got now a flow that's going to run when the user first logs into the system. So that part's super, super easy. Any questions on that login flow? Now, obviously, when you don't want it to run, you'll want to come in and remove those flows so that they don't run. But that is your login flow. That very, very simple. I cannot pronounce your name, but I see the link that you gave. Oh, is there an idea out there to make that change? Yeah, allow multiple profiles. That would be nice. Yeah, very good. You can upvote that one. That would be really nice if you're using flows to be able to do that. Now, I did want to show you too, just real quickly. Here is instructions on how you create your login flow. Again, it's very, very simple. And that's available out there on Salesforce Help as well. Any other questions on that? Any questions on how you get that template installed, debugging, any aspect of what we went through? If you're shy, you can type it in the chat window. I've got that where I can see it. Or you can unmute and ask questions there as either way. All right, well, assuming I'm not hearing anything, that is today's session. I do want to go back to our presentation, which I closed down. Let's see if I can get that back up real quick, because I do want to invite you to our next user group session. So the next user group session that we have is August 13th. And if you're not familiar with Eric Dreschfield, he is a MVP of MVPs, and he's going to be presenting to us on diversifying your workforce. So this is one of those opportunities where you get to hear from somebody that is kind of a, he would probably shoot me for saying this because he's very humble, but he's kind of like at the top of the food chain as far as MVPs go. He's an MVP for life. He's in that category that he's just always going to be an MVP. He is awesome. He's incredibly easy to get along with. He's very approachable, one of the nicest guys out there. And he will be at our user group meeting this next month. So I would invite you to come to that, get signed up and registered. And then Metazoa is going to be our sponsor for that. So if you've not seen their snapshot product, it is very, very cool. So you'll want to see their demo as well. Also, I'm going to do for Terry's Tidbits in the next months, or in this particular one, I'm going to do a little bit more of an extended Terry's Tidbits, and we're going to look at the before and after triggers for flows. That is a brand new summer feature with flows, and it is super, super cool. It is what you will want to start using instead of process builders. So I wanted to introduce that to the group and show you how simple it is to start getting into flows. If flows is one of those things that intimidate you, the before and after triggers make it so easy. And so I want to show you how to do that in Flow. And so that will be really the major pieces of our agenda for our user group. So we're going to hear from Eric, we'll hear from Metazoa, and then we'll talk about before and after triggers on flows. And we'll have some giveaways. There's a raffle. We're going to have lots of fun. We'll have a quiz-like thing like we did last time. It'll be fun. You'll have a good time. So I hope that you'll sign up and come on August 13th. And with that, that is our session for today. So I'm going to let you go. It was a quick one today. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for joining, and hope to see you in August.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah. Take
Hey,
care.
Terry.
Bye-bye.